Okay, so let's look at how we are going to trim these blocks up. Here is my block, and all I've done is I've come through and I've trimmed away all of the excess stabilizer. So now I have my wadding underneath, and the only fabric or anything that you can see is my 100% cotton fabric on top, these overstitch pieces, and my backing fabric. Now I just want to come through and show you the reason that we use the wash away thread. So this is my block here, and what you can see is back when we first tacked down our embroiderer's felt and our, sorry, I'm losing my mind here, and probably a better way to show that is with this bit. Our embroiderer's felt and our cotton, this was the stitching line that we created. Because of all the stitching that we then put on the block, when we came to putting the wadding and the backing on, this is the new stitching line. And this is why we use wash away thread, because both of these lines are going to come out. So we won't actually see either of these. And it's the new stitching line that you want to use as your trimming guide. And I'm now going to come through and using that trimming guide of the outside edge, I'm going to trim 1 inch all the way around. Now, some of my seams here are only just going to get that inch. That's okay. It is much more important that we have the inch on the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, than it is on the front. Don't worry about the fact that you can see that selvage there. That is all going to disappear as we put the block together. And so that is our trimmed block. And now I'm going to go through and do the same to the other 4 blocks that are going to match this super block. Okay, so here I have my 4 blocks all trimmed, and I'm going to work on 2 of these blocks at a time. So all I'm going to do is come through and line up our seam line and stitch as close, if not just inside that seam line, as we can. I'm going to use 100% white cotton thread, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I've now joined up both of those pieces together, and what I've done is I've come through and I'm just going to press our seam flat to one side. Once I've done that, I'm going to take these 3 pieces of fabric. So I'm leaving the top piece here. I'm going to take these 3 pieces and trim to about 1/4 of an inch. And that is going to take all of that bulk out of the seam for us. You can see there, I'm trimming away that excess applique fabric as well. I'm just going to turn that around so that I can get a better handle on it. chuck that away. And then I'm going to come through and we are going to fold over that remaining inch of fabric so that there's no exposed seam. And again, I'm going to press that, mainly just because pressing solves most of life's issues. Now, at this stage, you can choose to come through and hand stitch that together, or you can grab your double-sided no heat basting tape and attach that to the block. And once that's attached, pull off the backing and turn it over, which will also secure that seam. Now, once I've done this, while you don't need heat, I love the extra security that heat does give me. So I come through and I apply a little bit of heat just to fully set that seam. Now, I'm going to do exactly the same thing to the other side. However, what I want to do is make sure that in this case my seam is going to sit to the opposite side so that I can then lock those seams together and not have too much bulk in the finished project. I'll come back once I've completed this side. And now that both sections of this block have been joined together, I'm going to come through and stitch along the bottom there and repeat the process. I'll come back once this has been stitched. Okay, so I've joined that next seam together, so now I have all 4 blocks as one, and I'm coming through and I'm trimming away the excess fabric. Now, it's made a little bit more difficult with the joining of the last of the 4, simply because we've got fabric here within our seams. So just come through and trim the bulk of that away as best you can. And now I'm just going to do a final press. And then come through. Now, as I was saying before, this is not an incredibly bulky seam, simply because we've taken that through on each side. So half the bulk is there and half is there. As I said before, you can hand stitch this if you would like. Either way is absolutely fine. And I'm going to come through, run my line of basting tape, just working half at a time. Come through. I will fold that down. And then press it with my iron. Now, one of the tricks is to then leave this flat until the fabric cools down and the glue ergo dries. And you'll get a much better overall finish. So I'm going to leave that for a minute and I'll come back and show you how I get rid of the last of the wash away thread. Okay, and the final step that we are going to do here is to get rid of these excess stitching lines. And remember, we've done these with wash away thread. So all I need to do, and I've got my towel here that I've just dipped in water. And you can see that those threads are disappearing. Now I'm not taking them away from the outside here, simply because we've got to join other blocks to this. But you can see just how well the wash away thread then comes out of those seams. Leaving a perfect block. Okay, so that is how you are going to put your blocks together. When it comes to, and that was a stitch that was actually left in there, when it comes to putting individual blocks together, I would then join, for instance, block there and block there across here before I join them along this way. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them to me at sales@JulieHallDesigns, or just ask on one of our Facebook groups. Until next time, have a stitching day. Bye.